Episode 116. Zhonghu kept rubbing his hands together, clearly eager to see Han Li's information. Seeing this, Han Li sneered inwardly, but outwardly he readily agreed. Copying the data was a simple task. Han Li and the other party finished the job in the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, then tossed their respective jade slips to each other. When they each held the other's jade slip, Zhonghu and Han Li quickly scanned the contents. Finding they were indeed maps of the central region, they both smiled to themselves, each harboring their own ulterior motives. Forging fake materials in such a short time was naturally impossible, but deliberately omitting key details during the copying process, that was the unspoken agreement. After this incident, Zhonghu and Han Li seemed to have grown much closer, and the two of them even began chatting about various strange tales and anecdotes from the cultivation world. To see them laughing and chatting now, you'd never believe they were trying to kill each other just a short while ago. It seems both men were masters of knowing when to advance and when to retreat. Han Li wore a broad smile, appearing to chat amiably, but inwardly he was cursing a blue streak.
We can keep talking, but why are you standing so far away? If I take a single step forward, he'll take 2 polite steps back.
Although Han Li had no intention of killing the man, his opponent's level of caution was both laughable and frustrating. Han Li, however, wasn't in a hurry. The core area of the Forbidden Land was fundamentally different from the outer regions. In the other regions outside the central zone, the spirit grasses and rare fruits mostly grow in a random, unpatterned way. You could find traces of them in any corner of these areas. It's usually first come, first served. Those who get their hands on something immediately flee the scene. So, in these areas, genuine conflicts sparked by spirit herbs are actually quite rare. Far more people perish from the large-scale purges by others or from certain individuals' acts of killing to seize treasures. But the central zone is different. According to the accounts of disciples who made it back in the past, the central area is vast, covering over a third of the entire Forbidden Land. It was enclosed by the surrounding stone walls into a large circle. Starting from the area around the 4 bronze gates and moving inward, the entire region was divided into 3 distinct outer layers, much like the skin, flesh, and core of a common fruit, a remarkably clear and peculiar stratification. The picturesque place Han Li now found himself in was the outermost layer of the central zone. The flowers, plants, and trees growing here were mostly for ornamental or decorative purposes. The truly useful, high-grade spirit herbs for cultivators were actually produced within the second layer of the central zone. Among them were the 3 main ingredients for the Foundation Establishment pill. Most of the disciples from the various sects who entered this place came for this very layer. Han Li was equally determined to secure these spirit herbs. The second level was a vast, ring-shaped mountain range, perpetually shrouded in an impenetrable, sightless fog. Within these mountains lay natural spiritual sites, caves, secluded valleys, sheer cliffs, as well as man-made structures like stone huts and halls. These were the places where all the rare and potent spiritual herbs grew. The information the Ugly Man and Han Li exchanged was primarily maps detailing the locations of these spirit herbs. After all, no one could guarantee that the data they already possessed would cover the specific area they ended up in, so naturally, the more distribution maps they had, the better. That way, they could more easily match their location to the map and search accordingly. However, the fog shrouding this mountain is simply too vast and too dense. Cultivators can only grope their way forward. Where they end up, whether they can even get out, depends entirely on their own luck. But what was even more of a headache was the countless demon beasts that inhabited the ring-shaped mountain. Their strength varied wildly. If one encountered a beast from the highest echelons, even the elite disciples of the 7 great sects would have no choice but to flee for their lives. Fortunately, the highest-tier beasts are exceedingly rare on this mountain. Most of them have become guardians for specific spirit herbs, so you're unlikely to just stumble upon one out in the open. The most troublesome among the low-tier beasts are those at the upper first rank, a group of elite disciples can handle them easily, but for a lone individual, a bloody battle is unavoidable. The mountain's shrouding mists and the beasts lurking within made the disciples exchange uneasy glances. To ascend under these conditions was a guaranteed death sentence. So, the first few groups of disciples to enter the Forbidden Land back then only gathered some common spirit herbs on the outskirts of the central zone. They never actually ventured into the Ring Mountains. But after several attempts, a cultivator from the Concealing Moon sect went to great lengths to forge a magic treasure called the Moon Sun Pearl. This pearl could emit a wondrous light capable of suppressing all kinds of miasmas and poisonous fogs. Armed with this treasure, the Concealing Moon sect disciples shone brilliantly during the very next opening of the Forbidden Land. They acted behind the backs of the other sects. After dispelling most of the mist, they returned from the ring-shaped mountains laden with spoils. With this harvest, they refined a large batch of Foundation establishment pills. Then they recruited disciples widely, causing their sect's strength to soar. From then on, the Concealing Moon sect's position as the #1 cultivation sect in the state of UA was firmly established. But as the saying goes, walls have ears. Word of the Concealing Moon sect's massive haul of heaven and earth spirit herbs in the Forbidden Land, thanks to the Moon Yang Pearl, eventually got out. Not long after, the other 6 sects came knocking. After a round of bickering and bargaining, the Concealing Moon sect was finally forced to hand over the treasure orb. It became a shared possession of the 7 great sects to be held in rotation. No matter which sect held the treasure pearl, once inside the forbidden area, its disciples had to use the treasure at the predetermined time under the supervision of the other sect's disciples. They could not deliberately rush ahead or delay the time to dispel the mist. This ensured that all disciples who arrived at the central area in time could enter the Ringed Mountain to gather spirit herbs simultaneously, making the process supremely fair. By offering up the treasure pearl, the Concealing Moon sect seemed to have suffered a great loss. In reality, they avoided a sect-destroying calamity and preserved their chance to grow stronger over time. Now, the Concealing Moon sect stands at the pinnacle of the 7 great sects. The agreed time to dispel the mist is set for the morning of the 3rd day. Han Li had been rushing to the central zone without rest, all to avoid being ambushed by anyone else on the way and missing the entry window. Now that he was inside the central zone, there was no need to rush anymore.
Even if we rushed to the 2nd layer now, we'd just be staring helplessly at that fog.
The 3rd layer at the heart of the Forbidden Land was even more mysterious. It was a colossal pagoda, 100 jang tall, surrounded by a vast expanse of dense green forest. This was the absolute core of the entire Forbidden Land. According to the experts, that's the original residence of the Forbidden Land's master. The treasures there must be even rarer. However, at the border between the 2nd and 3rd layers, an unknown and powerful restriction was still in operation, blocking all disciples who tried to force their way in. This restriction is simply not something a mere chi condensation disciple could ever hope to break. But cultivators at the Foundation establishment stage or higher cannot enter the restricted area, so what exactly lies within this pagoda remains an unsolved mystery to this day. Han Li had absolutely no interest in the giant pagoda on the 3rd floor.
For me, finding enough heaven and earth spiritual herbs on the 2nd level and getting out in one piece would be a blessing from the gods and Buddhas.
It took Han Li a full quarter hour of patient dealing with the ugly man before he finally shook him off, stepped into the nearby undergrowth, and vanished from sight. Just before he vanished from sight, he glanced back one last time. Zhonghu was still lounging lazily in the same spot, showing no intention of leaving whatsoever.
It looks like these experts won't stop until they've cleared out 80 or 90% of the other disciples trying to fish in troubled waters. The other 3 gates probably have people doing the same thing.
Han Li pondered this as he searched the area far from the bronze door. Beneath a towering tree, Han Li discovered an inconspicuous hollow. This brought a surge of joy to his heart. He ducked inside, set up a few simple protective measures at the entrance, and then, without another thought, fell into a deep, snoring sleep.
I need a proper rest. Who knows what we'll run into tomorrow morning when we break through the mist around the Ring Mountains. Getting myself back to peak condition is the best strategy. But I believe that by tomorrow, the number of disciples from the various sects who can stand before the ringed mountain and wait for the mist to clear won't be many at all, and each one of them will likely be no easier to deal with than that Feng Yue.
Han Li slept deeply and soundly, not waking until the early hours of the following morning. The most crucial day of the Forbidden Land expedition had finally arrived. After waking up, Han Li didn't immediately leave the tree hollow. Instead, he sat down cross-legged. The spiritual energy within him was surging, and his magic power had recovered to its peak state from before entering the forbidden area. The aches and pains in his body had long since vanished without a trace. Han Li slowly opened his eyes after his internal inspection, feeling utterly content. He then stood up, checked the talismans and magic tools inside his storage pouch, and made his final preparations. Han Li had never had the chance to properly examine the storage pouches he'd taken from the bearded man and his gang that day. Now, he naturally went through them again, checking to see if there were any usable magic tools. To be honest, the sheer scarcity and low grade of the magic tools in the storage pouches, whether they belonged to the bearded duo or were loot they had stolen, left Han Li speechless. In total, across the 5 storage pouches, there were 23 magic tools, 5 low-grade, 7 mid-grade, and 11 high-grade.